Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome. It is episode number 126 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. I'm your host, Catherine Erdley, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership group and consultancy for product businesses. Go to resilientretailclub.com to check out more information about my one-to-one services and joining the club. This is the in between Christmas and New Year's episode, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I'm really delighted to be joined on the podcast today by my good friend and yoga teacher, Martyna Borek, who is an absolute fount of information when it comes to relaxation techniques. And certainly I've benefited from them a lot in the past. So we're going to be talking today about the importance of stress relief, winding down. Thought it'd be suitable for this time of year, and something a little bit different. We're even going to try some breathing techniques in this episode. So do listen in and give it a go. Hey, Martyna.
Hi, Catherine.
You want to start us off by introducing yourself?
Sure. So my name is Martyna Borek. I'm a yoga teacher, and recently I started to study neuroscience, and I combine the ancient wisdom of yoga practices with the modern science.
Amazing. And we always have such interesting conversations. And of course, I should say you are my yoga teacher. Have been for how long now? Oh my goodness, 3 years?
We had our yoga anniversary.
in October.
In October.
Yoga anniversary. 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that is definitely such an important part of yoga for me. The stress relief, breathing techniques, all of the information that you've given me over the years, all of the things that you've suggested was so helpful, which is why I thought you'd be the perfect person to get onto the podcast today, because this will be going out in between Christmas and New Year. So hopefully, fingers crossed, all the people who are listening, who've got product businesses will be, as I said, fingers crossed, relaxing or thinking about trying to relax. So I wanted today's podcast to be a nice, soothing podcast all about stress relief. So do you want to start us off by just telling us a little bit about what does stress do to our bodies and why is it important to think about relieving it?
Of course. So product businesses have been experiencing a lot more stress the last few years, right? Especially around Christmas. Everything looked so different since the pandemic. This year, it still feels really weird with the financial crisis and everyone talking about it, the weather not being great, all the strikes and everything that's happening. It feels like it's getting harder and harder. And I think it's so intense on our bodies. And any client that I work with recently, especially since the financial crisis and post-pandemic trauma and everything else, they're holding on to a lot of stress in their bodies. So basically, when you're in a stress, you're in what we call fight and flight. So if you think of your nervous system, there's obviously like so many different ways you can segregate it. But one of the most common and well-known thing for anyone who doesn't study neuroscience in depth would be, I'm sure people have heard of the fight and flight mode, or what you also can call it a sympathetic nervous system. So you have sympathetic and parasympathetic. The parasympathetic is the rest and digest. So very often when you feel relaxed, you can maybe even hear your belly like growling because actually your body is resting and digesting and it's really calm and it's a really good space. And when you're in a sympathetic nervous system, you're prepared to fight. So which is they're equally important. We don't want to have just parasympathetic nervous system, otherwise you'll die.
Get eaten.
Your ancestors, by a lion. Your ancestors will be like, oh, well, we obviously need both. And sometimes you need to activate the sympathetic nervous system. If you have a talk or you need to go on a sales pitch or anything like that, you want to be in fight and flight. You want to be your best and have that adrenaline, right?
Yeah.
But very often living in a busy cities or being a business owner, you're more in a sympathetic nervous system than you should be. And then it has got horrible consequences on your health, especially things like your heart, your brain, your whole body suffers. You're probably experiencing more pains. So whenever we're in a sympathetic nervous system, your brain feels threatened. It thinks something is going wrong. For instance, you're being chased by a lion. For you to change the behavior, so for you to do something different to like get yourself out of the situation, if you're not fighting, if you're not running for your life, if you're sitting still at your desk and you're in a fight and flight, your brain is so confused. It will send you pain. So often people start to get headaches, tension in the shoulders, jaw, teeth. Anywhere else, lower back, it's the most common one. And actually, sometimes we think like, oh, I'm injured, I've hurt my back. But very often it's just being stressed. The pain is real, doesn't mean that the pain doesn't exist, but it's more likely you are in fight and flight and your brain sends you pain just so you change your behavior and you get yourself out of it.
I mean, I completely relate to all of what you just said. I was like, tick, tick, yeah. That happens to me. So do you think I don't know, this is concept of the stress bucket, which I find very interesting, where it's like stresses of life kind of fill you up. And if you don't drain the bucket by relaxing or doing like consciously thinking about relaxation techniques, then it can overflow and that's the negative consequences. So is it a question of if you're constantly, and I think that probably retail and product businesses tend to be in fight and flight for like the entire of the fourth quarter. You know, they're dealing with stock shortages and postal delays and angry customers and social media being odd and who knows what else going on. So it's almost like they're in it for a sustained period. So is it a question of you should really, to be healthy, like drain it on a regular basis? Is it like an on-off switch or is it like a draining it out, if that makes sense?
So actually in neuroscience, we have the term called threat bucket.
Okay.
So because each one of those things is your brain sees as a threat. Someone gives you a negative comment or the algorithm doesn't boost your post or something like that. And like you said, business owners are pulled in so many different directions that everything just becomes like overwhelming and overflowing. And it's like so threatening for your brain. You have like different spikes of stress. So I would say there are 100% you need to have cleansing techniques on a regular basis. Something I think very often people, when the crisis hits, when the bucket is overflowing, they're like, oh, I need to go and meditate. No, that's the worst time you can do it. You will hate it. Like when you're in a crisis, just let yourself be in a crisis and have your freak out and have your moment. But when you're not in a crisis, work with that hygienic motion, hygienic brain. So you wouldn't like take a shower after like a week when you're just really, really smelly. You want to do it every day so you don't get to the smelly point, right? It's similar thing with your thread bucket. I really recommend doing things on a regular basis that will support your mental health. And to be honest, I find like business owners are usually like very driven with clear vision, passionate people. And very often they like in service to others. So it can be the hardest thing to like withdraw and be like, oh, I need to take care of me and set clear boundaries with me for me to like be in service to others and not have a burned out and actually function better, right?
Yeah.
So there are some really lovely techniques. And I know that sometimes just doing that meditation, 10 minutes meditation is too much and it can be overwhelming. It's a lot. And people don't talk about it, how it's a lot. Everyone just keeps saying like, if you want to have successful business or anything in life, meditate. And it can be very annoying to hear all over and over. I know when I'm like in a bad place and someone tells me like, oh, you should just meditate more. I just get so angry. I feel such an anger. So I just want to say there are like, if that doesn't feel right for you, and I'm advocate for meditation, I think it's beautiful. But I also think there are different forms of meditation and different techniques you can do to support yourself. And just because it works for someone, it doesn't mean it will work for you. There are other things, small things you can do on a regular basis that can support your mental health and can bring you to parasympathetic nervous system just by hacking your brain.
Okay, which brings us on perfectly to the next question. Can you give us an example of a brain hack? And I'm going to be spoiler alert here. I'm assuming it's to do with your breath, because I know it's something we've talked about a lot.
Yes. So before we actually talk about breath, because I think breathing is the most important thing in your life. It's something you start your life with and end your life with. It's such a shame we are not taught how to do it properly. And I think things are changing now. I remember a few years ago, sleep was the new big thing. And everyone was talking about the Matthew Walker and his book and how sleep, like everyone went through sleep revolution. I think we're going to go through breath revolution. And it's going to be another pillar of health, because there's so much science proven how breath is crucial for your well-being, and it helps you sleep better and everything else. Like, if you breathe well, you're nourishing your body better because you're absorbing minerals with oxygen to all your organs. So yeah, it's super important to learn how to breathe. And I feel like we can talk about it for like at least 3 hours, because I run workshops on breath for 3 hours long. So the key is, I can't learn. If someone tells me, do this, you'll feel better, and doesn't explain why, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do it. So that's the reason I'm going to give you a quick explanation why breath is so important.
Okay, let's do it.
If you in a fight and flight and you imagine, let's say you're stressed, client upset you or someone didn't pay you, whatever happens, and you're breathing in, taking big inhales through the mouth or even through the nose. But usually when you're stressed, you're hyperventilating through the mouth, right? If you imagine when you inhale, your heart expands, so it gets bigger. And the blood that runs through it runs slower, just because the heart becomes bigger.
Okay.
So automatically it sends signals to the brain, the blood is running really slowly through the heart. Something is wrong, speed up the heart. So that's how people start to have like a strong heartbeat, maybe even palpitations, because your brain's like, oh my God, I'm worried. The blood is going so slowly, something is wrong. When you focus on exhale, when you exhale, the heart gets smaller. So the blood runs through it faster, just because the heart becomes smaller, less distance. And then it sends signals to the brain that says, like, brain, we can slow down the heart now because the blood is going quite quickly. So you're slowing down your heart and you're calming down. So whatever you do, instead of thinking of the more is better, and like the bigger inhales, the better, we need more breath. That's very like a modern thinking, more is better. Actually, less is better. Less inhales, slower exhalations, and give yourself that emphasis on exhalations. And that will really ground you down. And that's the exhalations is what brings you to the parasympathetic, the rest and digest nervous system.
Way back when I had my kids, I did hypnobirthing, and they talked about the sleep breathing, and it's you breathe in for 4 and out for 8. And because that's when you're sleeping, that's how you breathe when you're sleeping, is you have a shorter inhale and a longer exhale. And I find now, if I'm trying to go to sleep, or if I'm just feeling like overwhelmed, or when we've done breathing before, it's like that shorter inhale and the long exhale. It's amazing. You can really feel like the shift after a while of your body kind of goes like, oh, okay, there's no lions here. Okay.
No lion will attack me and eat me. I'm just at my computer reading an email.
Yeah.
So breath is big, and exactly inhale for 4, exhale for 8, or any other number. If you're feeling very stressed, maybe you just inhale for count of 2 and exhale for 4, but try to double the exhalation. I really recommend that. I think that's just like the simplest thing to remember, to double the exhalations when you're feeling stressed. Later on, I'm going to give you a few more breathing techniques, especially if you're in a really panicky state. But I wanted to touch upon other techniques that are targeting your senses. So if you're somewhere and you're really threatened, and maybe your threat bucket is overflowing, the fastest and simplest thing you can do for your brain to bring you down back to earth is to look at the furthest point you can see. So vision is something that your brain responds to it very quickly. And very often we sit in like a small room, the computer or phone is just in front of us and we're stressing. And if your brain can't see far, it goes into tunnel vision. And probably you've been before when you're like in a tunnel vision when this client said something and you're just like, oh my God, I'm a bad person. I've done it wrong. And you just can't snap out of it at all. You're forgetting all the wonderful things 100 people told you about yourself. And you just focus on that one thing, right? So to snap out of that mental tunnel vision and actual tunnel vision with your eyes, you can just go to the window, maybe close your eyes and press the palms onto your eyes to get like full darkness, no light coming in for at least 20 seconds. And then open them and look at the furthest point you can see for at least 30 seconds. And actually, my sister, she was very stressed in her office. And I told her that. And she's been doing it for like a few weeks. And she's like, it really works. And I'm like, oh. Sometimes she messages me. She's like, I just did it. It's so amazing. And I'm like, that's so cute. But yeah, it does work. You can try it. Do it as a magic trick. See if it works. Because honestly, it's just, that's why I think going for walks works on our mental health so well. Because we have all this space and we see so far. So if you can't go for a walk and you can't get out, just
go look
through the window and look at the furthest point. Vision is something that if our vision is blurry, or maybe you have vision problems, maybe you have any health issues or disabilities, then you're more likely to suffer a lot more anxiety, because vision is something that our brain picks on immediately to know whether it's safe or not. Few other breathing techniques, inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 8, it's great. But I really want to do another one that is slightly more complicated, but it's super beneficial for your health, especially for people who suffer with asthma, as it strengthens your lungs and strengthens your ability to be immune to CO2. So we focus so much on oxygen. We think oxygen good, CO2 bad, but actually you need CO2 in your bloodstrings to pull the oxygen and get it into the muscles and into the organs. And often we're lacking that CO2 because we overbreathe and we exhale too much through the mouth and we're lacking the CO2. So this is the great way of increasing that CO2 levels and strengthen your lungs. Okay, so we're going to inhale for count of 2. Then we're going to hold for 2. Then we're going to exhale for 4. So again, slower exhalations. And then you're going to hold the breath out for 2. And as you practice that in the future, you can always increase the numbers. But whatever you do, double the exhalation. So same number, double exhalation, and same number again.
It's about holding the breath out of your body. Okay, let's do it. This is by far not the worst thing you've made me do. At least we're not having to do squats.
That will come later.
Because that's just so, I feel like I should give that some context. So this is one of these things that the kind of the next step with it, isn't it, is to make you sort of exert yourself while holding your breath out, because then that really trains you, which is not, I must admit, I find it quite hard. So we've done this holding your breath out and then squatting, which is but today we're just going to do all right, let's do this.
That's called an air hunger. I'm not going to make you guys do it today. It's Christmas. No one needs to squat over Christmas. I'm a former believer of being lazy over Christmas. Okay, so whenever you're ready, just find your comfortable position. See if you can sit up in any position that makes you feel comfortable, but where your spine is tall. And then let's just take a breath in for 1, 2, then hold for 1, 2, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out for 1, 2. Let's do it 2 more times. Let's breathe through the nose only. So inhale for 1, 2, hold 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out 1, 2. Inhale 1, 2, hold 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath out 1, 2. And now just come back to regular breathing, regular rhythm.
I feel calmer.
There are, oh, that's great. And you're practicing that breathing techniques that will keep you calm as well, will help you reduce pain. Because the more you're in a fight and flight, the more your brain will like be prone to send you more pain. So the calmer your nervous system you are, the less pain you will experience.
It's incredible. I mean, I find all of this so interesting. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have time to kind of go into all of the ins and outs. As you know, you've worked with me on a couple of chronic pains that I've had. I had pain in my foot, pain in my hip. And I definitely have done a lot of things around breathing, and it definitely has made a difference. I don't understand all the science in the way that you do, but I do definitely think it works. It's so important as well. And I think it's just really hard to do your best in your business and in your life when you're really stressed out. And I think that it's something that I've learned over years and years and years, and I probably still don't do it enough, but the importance of that, like you say, the rest and digest. I love that.
Yeah, totally. And as well, I just think like with practicing breathing technique, meditation, movement, mobility, anything that gets you out of your tunnel vision and your business, or something that is your self-care. I recommend yoga because I think the way it's structured, it's brilliant for your brain, for your body, for your mind, for your health. And like, if you do that, if you take time to, even once a week for an hour to spend on yourself, you will definitely less likely to suffer things like burnout. And it's such a big mental health issue now. I think we say like, oh, I'm feeling burned out, but actually it's a proper serious problem. And the consequences from it can be like really, really difficult to deal with. It's just another form of depression. And it's just such a difficult and horrible space to be in. And I think the more you invest in yourself and practice the de-stressing techniques, not because you feel like you have to, but from a genuine space of self-compassion, you're as well attracting better people, better clients. You're more mindful as well who you're letting into your space. And then the growth happens. I know personally, when I started my business, I was really worried and I kind of let everyone in. We say in Polish, like you let people in with their dirty shoes on, and then you kind of suffer because you feel a little bit desperate and a little bit in a survival mode, right? And we don't want to be surviving, we want to be thriving. And sometimes to be thriving, you need to let go of a lot of things and not be in a survival mode. So allow yourself to be in a calmer and thriving mode. And sometimes that means like saying no to many things. And I found with my practices, I have just better self-awareness. I'm more aligned with my values, and it just attracts events, things, and people that are a lot more aligned with what my values are, because I feel just confident in that, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. Oh, well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. And I know I just really wanted to have this conversation on the podcast because, of course, we've discussed it so many times in person. And I think it's so important, this idea of, I mean, let's face it, the breathing techniques we did, what was that, like 2 minutes, like 3 minutes? And it just helps you like lower that, get into a different space. And I know for me personally, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I almost have to take 5 minutes to outdo some of these breathing techniques that you taught me, and as well as making time. Because sometimes it's the big things and the little things, right? Because it's the big things like making time to go on a yoga retreat, for example, or to go to a weekly yoga class. But then it can also be the small things, which is like taking 5 minutes to do this breathing, just to kind of get yourself into a good headspace before you go back to something, and rather than just keep trying to push through when you're feeling in this fight or flight.
Definitely. And there is final breathing technique. If we still have time, I would like to teach everyone.
All right,
because I think this one is the one you should do when you're in a crisis, when something really bad happens, or maybe you have nerves before talk. Have you ever seen anyone, or maybe you went through like a heartbreak when you were a teenager and then you cried and you were like, right? That's like,
little kids do it. Yeah.
Little kids do it as
well. And they really worked up a head of steam. They're like yeah.
Or in any rom-com, especially the Christmas rom-com, you probably can see a little bit of drama like that. We all love those films, Catherine, not only you and your daughter. Anyway, so it's a nice way to remember it. When you panic, you go, and basically that's your brain be like, okay, get a grip. Your brain is like, I'm like overwired. This is way too much for me. And this is how you bring yourself down. So if you're in an extreme stress, panic, or anxiety, and your heart is racing, you can even try it by doing some cardio and then do a few of those breaths and see how quickly your heart will come down. So it's inhale, exhale slowly. Okay. So let's try maybe 3 of those now.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, let's just take one breath to prepare. So just inhale through the nose and exhale, let go. And now inhale, exhale slowly. Inhale, exhale slowly. One more. Inhale, exhale slowly. So yeah, that's like, I think, one of my favorite breathing techniques that feels like absolute magic, because within few breaths like this, your heart rate, your nervous system is calm.
Down so quick. No, for sure. I've used that tip on the cardio thing. Sometimes I'm doing cardio and then it's like your heart starts racing and the double inhale. It works for sure. You're a magician. Martyna, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. Let's tell everyone where they can find out about you and your fabulous yoga teaching, speaking from personal experience, as well as your amazing retreats, of course.
Oh, thank you, Catherine. So you can find me on Instagram. It's Martyna with Y Borek Yoga, or my website, which is martynaborekyoga.com. Yeah, I teach across London. I also do online one-to-one classes and in-person one-to-one classes if you live in London, to help people to live better and feel healthier and support them in their life. I also run retreats all over the world. I have a few amazing retreats this year in Norfolk, Morocco, Italy. Catherine is joining on a few of them.
We'll come to Italy. Yeah, hopefully Italy and Morocco if I can swing it.
Yeah.
And I was in Morocco in 2022. It's amazing. It's really brilliant. I've done yoga retreats before. This was definitely the best experience. So if you're in the market for a yoga retreat, if you're in the market for in-person yoga, if you're in the market for an amazing yoga teacher who is, I have to say, I'm going to do it for you, Martyna, because you're not going to do it. One of London's top yoga teachers who teaches at all the best studios, and you have run, let's see, who have you run workshops for? You've run them for Meta, you've run them for, go on, give us the rundown.
Adidas, Google, and a few others.
Exactly. There you go. So, you've an impressive list of people that you've worked with. And thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me, and to all the lovely business owners. I just wanted to wish you calm and happy Christmas, and I hope your businesses will be thriving under Catherine's magical wings.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you're feeling nice and relaxed now after those breathing techniques. I hope that you're having a wonderful, restful time right now, enjoying a bit of downtime in between Christmas and New Year. And thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretailclub.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions, or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, the Resilient Retail Club is the place for you. With a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretailclub.com.